The telegram arrived in Tascosa, Texas on a scorching July morning in 1883, announcing that a train full of mail-order brides would arrive by week's end. And Ryder Ingram stood on the platform with his heart pounding harder than it had in all his 32 years, wondering if any woman would see past his rough exterior to the man beneath. Ryder had worked cattle drives since he was 16, saved every spare dollar, and finally purchased his own spread 3 years back. The ranch was modest but profitable, with good water and grazing land stretching toward the Canadian river breaks. He had built a sturdy house with his own hands, room enough for a family, but the emptiness inside those walls echoed louder with each passing season. His mother had passed when he was young, his father just 2 years ago, and the loneliness had become a weight he could no longer carry alone. The idea of a mail-order bride had seemed desperate at first. Ryder was tall and broad-shouldered, with sun-weathered skin and dark hair that curled at his collar. Women in town noticed him, but the respectable ones wanted store owners or bankers, men who kept their hands clean and their boots polished. The others wanted something temporary, and Ryder wanted permanence. He wanted a partner, someone to build a life with, to weather the hard seasons and celebrate the good ones. So he had written to the agency in Kansas City, keeping his letter simple and honest. He described his ranch, his prospects, his desire for a family. He did not embellish or make promises he could not keep. 3 weeks later, he received a response stating he had been accepted and should appear at the Tascosa station on July 14th. Now that day had arrived, and Ryder stood among 15 other men, all dressed in their Sunday best despite the heat. Some he knew from town, others had traveled from surrounding ranches and homesteads. They shuffled nervously, adjusting hat brims and wiping sweaty palms on trousers. The air smelled of dust and creosote, and the sun beat down mercilessly on the wooden platform. The train whistle sounded in the distance, a lonesome wail that made Ryder's stomach clench. He had faced stampedes and rustlers, drought and blizzards, but nothing had prepared him for this moment. What if none of the women chose him? What if he chose someone and discovered they could not abide ranch life? What if he was making the biggest mistake of his life? The locomotive pulled into the station with a great hissing of steam and squealing of brakes. Passengers began to disembark, and then the women appeared. They stepped down carefully, helped by the conductor, their travel dresses dusty and faces weary. Ryder counted 12 of them, ranging in age from what looked like barely 20 to perhaps 40. They huddled together uncertainly, clutching bags and parcels, their eyes scanning the waiting men with expressions mixing hope and apprehension. A woman from the agency, severe in black bombazine, clapped her hands sharply. "Gentlemen, ladies, please gather close. I am Mrs. Hodgkins, and I will be overseeing this selection process. Each gentleman will introduce himself briefly, state his occupation and prospects. Then the ladies will have the opportunity to ask questions before making their choices. I remind everyone that these are binding commitments. Choose wisely." The introductions began. Ryder listened as men described their farms, their businesses, their homes. Some spoke confidently, others stammered. When his turn came, he removed his hat and spoke clearly, his voice carrying despite his nervousness. "I am Ryder Ingram. I own a cattle ranch about 8 miles northwest of town. I have 600 acres, 300 head of cattle, good grass and water. The house is solid, built to last. I am looking for a true partner, someone willing to work hard and build a life together. I attend church when I can make it to town. I do not drink to excess or gamble. I will treat my wife with respect and provide for her to the best of my ability." He saw several women look at him with interest, but his own gaze had already been caught by one near the back of the group. She was small and slender, with light brown hair pulled back in a simple bun. Her dress was faded calico, mended in several places, and she held a worn leather Bible clutched against her chest. While the other women held carpetbags or hat boxes, she had only a small bundle tied with string and that Bible. Her face was pale, delicate-featured, with large eyes that held something Ryder recognized. It was not just exhaustion from travel or anxiety about the uncertain future. It was grief, deep and recent. When all the men had spoken, Mrs. Hodgkins instructed the women to circulate and converse. Some of the men approached specific women, others waited. Ryder found himself walking directly toward the woman with the Bible. Up close, he could see she was very young, perhaps 21 or 22, with a dusting of freckles across her nose and shadows under her eyes. The Bible in her hands was ancient, the leather cover cracked and worn smooth by countless handlings, the pages edged with gold that had mostly flaked away. "Madam," Ryder said, his voice gentler than it had been during his introduction, "my name is Ryder Ingram." She looked up at him, and he saw her eyes were gray, the color of clouds before rain. "Katherine Novak," she replied quietly. Her voice held a faint accent, something Eastern European softened by years in America. "That is a beautiful Bible," Ryder said, not sure what else to say but wanting to acknowledge the obvious importance of the object she held so tightly. Catherine's fingers moved over the cover in what seemed an unconscious gesture of comfort. "It belonged to my father, and his father before him. It is the only thing I have left of my family." There was something in the way she said it that made Ryder certain of his earlier instinct. "You have lost them recently," he said, not a question but a statement of understanding. Her composure wavered for just a moment. "Influenza. In the spring. My father, my mother, my younger brother. Within a week they were all gone. We had a small farm in Missouri. When I recovered, I found we were heavily in debt. The bank took everything. I had nowhere to go, no family, no prospects, so I contacted the agency." "I am deeply sorry for your loss," Ryder said, and meant it. He knew the hollow ache of losing family, the way the world became strange and unfamiliar without them. "Thank you." She looked down at the Bible again, her thumb tracing the edge. "Faith is all I have left. Without it, I do not know how I would have survived these past months." Something in Ryder's chest tightened painfully. He had seen much in his years, had known hardship and loss, but this young woman's quiet grief and resilience moved him in a way he had not expected. She was not putting on airs or trying to present herself as something she was not. She stood before him stripped of everything except her faith and her honesty. "I believe faith is the foundation of a good life," Ryder said. "My mother taught me that before she passed. I will be honest with you, Miss Novak. Ranch life is hard work. The house is comfortable but simple. I cannot offer luxury or ease, but I can offer stability, respect, and the chance to build something lasting. I would be honored if you would consider choosing me." Katherine studied him for a long moment, her gray eyes searching his face. Around them, other couples were talking, some animated, others stilted and awkward. Mrs. Hodgkins watched everything like a hawk. "Why did you choose to speak with me?" Katherine asked. "There are other women here who are better dressed, who bring more with them." Ryder considered his answer carefully. "I suppose because I recognized something in you. You have faced loss and kept going. You hold on to what matters most, even when everything else is stripped away. Those are the qualities I value. I am not looking for a decoration or a servant. I am looking for a partner with strength and character. I believe you possess both." A faint color rose in Katherine's cheeks, the first hint of animation in her pale face. I do not know much about ranching, but I am a hard worker. I can cook, clean, sew, tend a garden. I helped my father with the farm animals. I learned quickly." "That is all I could ask," Ryder said. They talked for another 10 minutes, practical questions and honest answers. Ryder learned that Katherine was 22, that she had completed 8th grade, that she loved to read when books were available. Katherine learned about the ranch routine, the distances to town and neighbors, the realities of frontier life. There was no pretense between them, no romantic illusions, just two people trying to determine if they could forge a life together. When Mrs. Hodgkins called time, Katherine looked at Ryder steadily. "I would like to choose you if that is acceptable." Relief and something warmer flooded through Ryder. "It is more than acceptable. I am grateful, Miss Novak." The formal selection process took another hour. Some matches were made easily, others required negotiation. 2 women chose not to select anyone, preferring to take their chances in town. 3 men were left unchosen, their faces bitter with disappointment. Mrs. Hodgkins recorded each pairing in her ledger, stern and efficient. The local preacher, Reverend Michaels, had been summoned to perform the ceremonies. He was a weathered man in his 60s who had seen countless unlikely pairings on the frontier. He gathered the couples in the small church beside the station, its whitewashed walls glowing in the afternoon heat. Ryder and Katherine stood together, not touching, as the Reverend spoke about the sanctity of marriage, the commitment they were undertaking, the challenges and joys ahead. When it came time for vows, Katherine's voice was steady despite her obvious exhaustion. Ryder slipped a simple gold band on her finger, one that had belonged to his mother. He had carried it in his pocket for weeks, hoping he would have the chance to use it. "I now pronounce you man and wife," Reverend Michaels said. "You may kiss your bride." Ryder looked at Katherine, this stranger who was now his wife, and saw uncertainty flicker across her face. He leaned down and pressed a gentle, brief kiss to her lips, nothing more than a formal acknowledgement of their new bond. When he pulled back, he saw her shoulders relax slightly. There were 11 other weddings that afternoon, some joyful, others somber. When the ceremonies concluded, the couples dispersed, heading to their various new homes. Ryder had brought the wagon, knowing they would need it for any belongings his bride might have. The reality of Katherine's single small bundle struck him again as he helped her up onto the seat. The ride out to the ranch took nearly 2 hours. Ryder pointed out landmarks along the way, trying to help Katherine orient herself. She listened attentively, asking occasional questions, her worn Bible resting in her lap. The landscape was harsh and beautiful, all rolling grassland and scattered mesquite, the earth red and ancient under the vast blue sky. "It is so different from Missouri," Katherine said, her eyes on the horizon. "So open, you can see forever." "Does it frighten you?" Ryder asked. She considered this. "A little, but also there is something honest about it. Nothing is hidden here. Everything is laid bare." Ryder glanced at her, surprised by the observation. "I have always felt that way, but I have never heard anyone else say it." "Perhaps that is why we are meant to be here," Katherine said softly. The ranch appeared gradually, the house first, a sturdy frame structure with a covered porch and real glass windows. Beyond it were the barn, the corrals, a chicken coop, and various outbuildings. It was neat and well-maintained, everything in its place. Ryder had worked hard to make it presentable, hoping his bride would find it acceptable. Katherine studied the homestead carefully as they approached. "You built this yourself?" "Most of it. I had help with the barn raising, and I hired a carpenter for the window frames. But yes, mostly I built it." "It is a good home," Katherine said, and Ryder heard approval in her voice. He helped her down from the wagon, acutely aware of how small and fragile she felt under his hands. She swayed slightly when her feet touched the ground, and he steadied her. "When did you last eat?" he asked, concerned. Katherine frowned, trying to remember. "Yesterday morning, I think, on the train." "Come inside," Ryder said firmly. "We will get you fed and rested. Everything else can wait." The interior of the house was dim and cool after the blazing sun. Ryder had built it with thick walls for insulation, with a large main room that served as kitchen and living area, 2 bedrooms and a small bathing room, a luxury on the frontier. The furniture was simple but well made, mostly pieces he had constructed himself. Everything was clean but stark, lacking the touches that made a house a home. Ryder guided Katherine to a chair at the table and quickly assembled a meal from his stores: bread, cheese, cold beef, canned peaches. He set it before her with a glass of cool water from the well. Katherine ate slowly at first, then with increasing hunger. Ryder busied himself putting away the supplies he had brought from town, giving her privacy to eat without being watched. When he glanced over, he saw she had cleaned her plate and was holding the glass of water in both hands, her eyes half closed with exhaustion. "The bedroom is through there," Ryder said, gesturing to the door on the right. "You should rest. I will bring in your things." Katherine looked at him, and he saw wariness creep into her expression. She was his wife now, and there were expectations that came with that. Ryder understood her fear, this young woman alone with a man who was essentially a stranger. He crossed to her and knelt beside her chair, putting himself at eye level. "Katherine, I want you to listen to me. You are exhausted and grieving and in a strange place. I will not press any demands upon you until you are ready. Take the bedroom. Rest. We have time to learn each other, to build trust. I am your husband, but I am also your friend and protector. You are safe here." Tears welled in Katherine's eyes, the first real emotion he had seen her display since meeting her. "Thank you," she whispered. "I have been so frightened and trying so hard not to show it." "You do not have to hide your feelings from me," Ryder said gently. "If this is to work, we must be honest with each other." Katherine nodded, wiping at her eyes with the back of her hand. Ryder fetched her bundle from the wagon, along with a pitcher of fresh water and a clean towel. He showed her the bedroom, where a large bed was covered with a quilt his mother had made years ago. The sight of it gave him a pang, a reminder of all the women he had loved and lost. "Rest as long as you need," he told Katherine. "I will be outside tending to chores. If you need anything, just call." He left her there, pulling the door closed behind him. Outside, he leaned against the porch rail and took a deep breath. He was married. After all these years alone, he had a wife. A young woman who had lost everything and was taking a leap of faith with a stranger. The responsibility of it settled on his shoulders like a physical weight. The afternoon passed in familiar work. Ryder checked on the cattle in the near pasture, repaired a section of fence, fed and watered the horses. The 2 ranch hands he employed, Jim and Carlos, had the day off and were likely in town celebrating or recovering from celebrating. It was just as well. It gave Ryder and Katherine time to adjust without an audience. As the sun lowered toward the horizon, painting the sky in shades of orange and gold, Ryder returned to the house. It was quiet inside, and he assumed Katherine was still sleeping. He moved quietly, not wanting to disturb her, and began preparing supper. He was a competent cook, having fended for himself for years. Tonight he made beans and bacon, cornbread and coffee. He was just pulling the cornbread from the oven when Katherine emerged from the bedroom. She had changed into a different dress, still worn but clean, and had redone her hair. Her face looked less pale, though her eyes still held that deep exhaustion that went beyond physical tiredness. "That smells wonderful," she said, hovering in the doorway. I hope you are hungry again, Ryder said. Sit, please. It is ready. They ate together as the light faded outside. The meal was simple but filling, and Ryder was pleased to see Katherine eat with good appetite. They talked little, but it was a comfortable silence, the ease of two people too tired for pretense. After supper, Katherine insisted on cleaning up despite Ryder's protests. He watched her move around his kitchen, familiarizing herself with where things were kept, her movements efficient despite her unfamiliarity with the space. There was something deeply satisfying about having her there, this quiet presence that made the house feel less empty. When the dishes were done, they sat on the porch as full darkness fell. The night was alive with sounds, crickets singing, cattle lowing in the distance, the whisper of wind through grass. Above them, the stars emerged in their thousands, a glittering canopy that seemed close enough to touch. I have never seen so many stars, Katherine said, her voice filled with wonder. In Missouri, there were trees everywhere. Here, the sky goes on forever. Wait until you see the moon rise over the plains, Ryder said. It is like watching the sun come up, but softer, more mysterious. Katherine turned to look at him, her face shadowed in the darkness. May I ask you something personal? Of course. Why did you never marry before? A man with your prospects, your land. Surely there were women who would have had you. Ryder was quiet for a moment, considering his answer. I suppose I never found the right one. And I was busy building this place, proving I could make it work. Time passed faster than I expected. Then my father got sick, and I cared for him until he passed. Suddenly, I was 32 and alone, and the silence in this house was too loud. I realized I did not want to live out my years with no one to share them with. You must think me very weak, Katherine said softly. Running away from my problems, agreeing to marry a stranger rather than face life alone. I think you are braver than you know, Ryder replied firmly. You survived terrible loss. You made a hard choice to start over. That takes courage, not weakness. I am honored you chose me. I chose you because you saw me, Katherine said. Not what I might bring you, not what I looked like or how I could serve you. You saw who I was, what I had been through. That meant everything to me in that moment. And I am glad you trusted me, Ryder said. They sat in the darkness a while longer, listening to the night. Finally, Katherine stood, swaying slightly. I should sleep more, she said. I am sorry I am not better company. Do not apologize. You need rest. Tomorrow will be soon enough to begin our life together. Katherine hesitated, then crossed to where Ryder sat. She leaned down and kissed his cheek, a gentle brush of lips that sent warmth spreading through him. Thank you for your kindness, she whispered. I will try to be a good wife to you. And I will try to be a good husband, Ryder replied. She slipped inside, and soon the house was dark except for the lamp Ryder had left burning on the table. He sat on the porch for another hour, thinking about this unexpected turn his life had taken. He had hoped for a practical partnership, a companion to ease the loneliness. But already, after just a few hours, he sensed the possibility of something more. Katherine moved him in ways he had not anticipated, her quiet strength and vulnerability stirring protective and tender feelings he had not experienced before. When he finally went inside, he checked that the doors were secured and the lamps safely out. He paused outside the bedroom where Katherine slept, hearing her soft, even breathing. Then he made his way to the smaller second bedroom, really just a room with a cot that he used for storage. It would serve as his sleeping quarters until Katherine invited him to share the marriage bed. He would not rush that intimacy, would not press her when she was still so raw from grief and change. As he lay on the narrow cot, Ryder sent up a silent prayer of thanks for Katherine's safe arrival, for her choice of him, for the chance to build a life together. Then he slept, deeply and dreamlessly, his mind at peace for the first time in months. The days that followed fell into a gentle rhythm as Ryder and Katherine learned each other. Mornings began early, Ryder rising before dawn to tend to the animals and start the day's work. He would return to find Katherine already awake, breakfast prepared, the house straightened. She had a gift for making the Stark rooms warmer, rearranging small things, adding wildflowers to the table, opening windows to let in light and air. Katherine was a good cook, better than Ryder, and she quickly took over the kitchen. She started a vegetable garden near the house, transplanting seedlings from plants that had gone wild. She tended the chickens, collected eggs, mended Ryder's clothes that had gone too long with rough repairs. She moved through the house singing sometimes, old hymns in her father's language, the melody haunting and beautiful. Ryder introduced her to Jim and Carlos when they returned to work. Jim was a lanky cowhand in his 40s, quiet and dependable. Carlos was younger, quick with a smile, his family having worked Texas land long before it became Texas. Both men treated Katherine with courteous respect, tipping their hats and keeping their distance, sensing she needed time to adjust. In the evenings after the day's work was done, Ryder and Katherine would sit together on the porch or at the kitchen table. They talked about everything and nothing, childhoods, dreams, fears, hopes. Katherine told him about her father's farm, the rhythm of seasons in Missouri, the closeness of her family. Her voice would catch sometimes, remembering, but she did not shy away from the memories. Ryder told her about growing up on the trail, about building the ranch, about his parents and the lessons they had taught him. "My mother used to say that love was not a feeling but a choice," Ryder told her one night. "I did not understand what she meant when I was young. I thought love was something that just happened to you, like lightning striking. But now I see the wisdom in her words. Love is choosing someone every day, working through the hard times, building something together brick by brick." Katherine looked at him thoughtfully, her worn Bible resting on her lap as it often did. "My father said something similar. He told me that his love for my mother grew deeper every year, not because she became more beautiful or accomplished, but because they faced life together. Through poverty and illness, through good times and bad, they chose each other." "It sounds like they had a good marriage," Ryder said. "They did." Katherine's eyes grew distant. "I used to pray I would find a love like theirs someday. After they died, I thought that dream had died with them. I thought I would spend my life alone, or at best in a marriage of mere convenience. But now I wonder if perhaps God had a different plan all along." "I believe he did," Ryder said quietly. "I believe he brought you here for a reason." Their eyes met, and something passed between them, a recognition that this arrangement they had entered into so practically was becoming something more. The attraction had been there from the beginning, a spark that neither had expected. But now it was growing into something deeper, fed by their daily interactions, their growing understanding of each other, the simple pleasure of shared work and conversation. One Sunday, 3 weeks after Katherine's arrival, they rode into Tascosa for church services. It was Katherine's first trip to town since her wedding day, and Ryder watched her take in the dusty streets, the false-fronted buildings, the mix of cowboys, merchants, and frontier families that made up the town's population. The church was a small structure, packed with people seeking respite from the heat and loneliness of frontier life. Reverend Michaels preached about patience and faith, about trusting in God's timing. Katherine listened intently, her lips moving silently as she followed along in her worn Bible. Ryder found himself watching her profile, the way the light through the window touched her hair, the serenity that settled over her features during worship. After the service, several women approached Katherine, curious about the new bride. Most were kind, welcoming her with genuine warmth. A few were cooler, examining her worn dress and shabby appearance with barely concealed disdain. Ryder saw Catherine's chin lift slightly, her shoulders straighten, facing their judgment with quiet dignity. "Pay them no mind," Ryder murmured as they walked back to the wagon. "They have nothing better to do than gossip." "I am not ashamed of who I am," Katherine said firmly. "I have known wealth and I have known poverty. Neither defines a person's worth." "No," Ryder agreed. "Character defines worth, and you have that in abundance." They stopped at the general store for supplies, and Ryder noticed Katherine looking longingly at a bolt of blue fabric, her fingers brushing lightly over the cloth. It was simple cotton, nothing fancy, but it was new and pretty. "Would you like it?" he asked. Katherine pulled her hand back quickly. "Oh no, I was just looking. I do not need anything." Ryder caught the storekeeper's attention. "We will take 4 yards of the blue cotton and some thread to match." "Ryder, no," Katherine protested. "It is too much." He looked down at her, seeing the conflict in her face, the longing warring with practicality and pride. "Katherine, you are my wife. It is my pleasure and my duty to provide for you. Let me buy you this small thing." Her eyes filled with tears and she blinked them back rapidly. "Thank you," she whispered. "I will make something nice from it." On the ride home, Katherine held the wrapped fabric in her lap, her fingers tracing the paper carefully. "I have not had anything new in over a year," she admitted. "After my father lost his job, every penny went to keeping food on the table and paying debts. When they died, I sold my few good dresses to pay for their burials. This feels like a luxury I do not deserve." "You deserve far more than a few yards of fabric," Ryder said. "I know I cannot give you riches, but I will provide what I can to make your life comfortable." That night, Katherine sat by lamplight with the fabric spread out, planning her pattern. Ryder pretended to read his stockman's journal, but he was really watching her, the way her face came alive with the simple pleasure of creating something new. In that moment, he realized something that both thrilled and terrified him. He was falling in love with his wife. It was not the sudden lightning strike he had imagined love to be in his youth. It was quieter than that, deeper. It was the way she hummed while she cooked, the kindness she showed to the animals, the strength he saw in her when she thought no one was looking. It was her faith, worn thin by tragedy but still intact, like the Bible she carried everywhere. It was her honesty, her refusal to pretend to be anything other than who she was. As the summer heat intensified, so did Ryder's feelings. He found himself looking for excuses to be near Katherine, to help her hang laundry or tend the garden, just to be in her presence. He noticed small things about her: the way she braided her hair each morning, the faint scent of lavender soap that clung to her skin, the soft sound of her breathing when she rayed by the evening light. Katherine seemed to be experiencing something similar. Her smiles came more easily now, her laughter no longer tentative. She would touch Ryder's arm when she spoke to him, lean into him slightly when they sat together in the evenings. The shadows under her eyes had faded, and color had returned to her cheeks. She was growing stronger, settling into her new life with increasing confidence. One evening in early August, a thunderstorm rolled in from the west. They watched it approach from the porch, a wall of dark clouds lit by internal lightning, the wind picking up and carrying the scent of rain. It was the first significant rain in weeks, desperately needed for the grass and water sources. As the first drops fell, large and heavy, Katherine laughed with delight. "I love the rain," she said. "I know that is strange for a farm girl to say, but there is something magical about it." "Not strange at all," Ryder replied. "Rain is life out here." The storm intensified quickly, rain sheeting down, thunder cracking overhead. They retreated inside, but Katherine went to the window, pressing close to watch the lightning illuminate the landscape. Ryder came to stand beside her, and they watched the storm together in companionable silence. Then lightning struck close, a blinding flash and simultaneous crack of thunder that shook the house. Katherine gasped and turned instinctively into Ryder, her hands clutching his shirt. He wrapped his arms around her without thinking, holding her close as the storm raged outside. They stood that way for a long moment, and gradually, Ryder became aware of how perfectly she fit against him, how right it felt to hold her. Katherine must have felt it too, because she looked up at him, her gray eyes reflecting the lightning flashes. "Ryder," she whispered, and he heard a question in his name. He cupped her face gently in his work-roughened hands. "Katherine, I need to tell you something. I know we have only known each other a short time, but I find myself thinking of you constantly. You have brought light into my life, warmth into this house. I am falling in love with you, and I wanted you to know, with no expectation of anything in return. Just the truth between us." Katherine's breath caught, and for a moment she just stared at him. Then her face transformed, a radiance breaking over her features like sunrise. "Oh, Ryder, I am falling in love with you too. I did not think it was possible after everything that happened. I thought my heart was too broken to feel such things again. But you have been so patient, so kind. You make me feel safe and valued and seen. I love you, and it terrifies me because I cannot bear to lose anyone else." "You will not lose me," Ryder promised. "I am here, Katherine. I am not going anywhere." He kissed her then, deeply and thoroughly, pouring all his feelings into that kiss. Katherine responded with equal passion, her arms winding around his neck, pressing close. The storm continued outside, but neither noticed any more. They were lost in each other, in the wonder of this unexpected love that had bloomed between them. When they finally drew apart, both were breathing hard. Ryder rested his forehead against Katherine's, his hands tangling in her hair. "I do not want to sleep apart anymore," Katherine said softly. "I want to be your wife in truth. I am ready." Ryder pulled back to look at her searchingly. "Are you certain? I do not want to rush you." "I am certain," Katherine said, her voice steady and sure. "I trust you, Ryder. I love you. I want this, want us." He picked her up then, cradling her against his chest, and carried her to the bedroom they would now share. Outside, the storm poured life-giving rain on the thirsty earth, washing everything clean, making way for new growth. Inside, Ryder and Katherine came together with tenderness and passion, cementing their bond, making their marriage complete. Afterwards, they lay tangled together in the darkness, listening to the rain on the roof. Katherine's head rested on Ryder's chest, her fingers tracing idle patterns on his skin. "I feel guilty," she admitted quietly. "About what?" Ryder asked, his hand stroking her hair. "About being happy. My family has been gone such a short time. Sometimes I forget for whole hours, and then I remember and the guilt is overwhelming. How can I laugh and love and plan a future when they are gone?" Ryder was quiet for a moment, gathering his thoughts. "When my mother died, I was 16. For months, I felt like I was betraying her every time I smiled or enjoyed something. My father saw me struggling and told me something I will never forget. He said that the dead do not want us to stop living. They want us to honor them by living well, by embracing joy when it comes, by making the most of the time we have been given. Your family would want you to be happy, Katherine. Loving me does not mean you love them less or miss them less. It means you are strong enough to keep living, to build a new life from the ashes of the old one." Katherine was crying softly, and Ryder held her as she wept. These were different tears than before, not just grief but release, permission to move forward without forgetting what came before. "Thank you," she whispered when the tears subsided. I needed to hear that. I needed someone to tell me it was acceptable to be happy again. It is more than acceptable, Ryder said. It is essential. We have been given this chance, you and I. Let us make the most of it. In the weeks that followed, their love deepened and flourished. The physical intimacy they now shared brought them closer, breaking down the last walls between them. Katherine bloomed like the flowers she tended, her natural joy returning, her laughter filling the house. She sang while she worked, danced in Ryder's arms in the kitchen when no one was watching, teased him with a playfulness he found utterly enchanting. Ryder found himself marveling at his good fortune every day. He had expected a partner and found a soulmate. Katherine matched him in every way that mattered. She was strong enough to face hardship, flexible enough to adapt, faithful enough to trust in their future together. And she loved him, truly loved him, with a depth that took his breath away. One afternoon in late September, Katherine was hanging laundry when she suddenly swayed and sat down hard on the ground. Ryder, who had been working nearby, rushed over in alarm. "What is wrong? Are you ill?" he asked, kneeling beside her. Katherine looked up at him, her face pale but her eyes shining. "I think I might be with child," she said softly. Ryder felt his heart skip a beat. "Truly, I am not certain yet, but the signs are there." I wanted to wait a bit longer before saying anything, but I nearly fainted just now and you would have worried yourself sick wondering what was wrong. Ryder gathered her into his arms, holding her close. "A child," he breathed. "Our child. Katherine, this is wonderful news. You are happy?" She asked, needing the reassurance. "Happy does not begin to cover it," Ryder said. "You have given me so much already, and now this. I cannot believe how blessed I am." They told no one for several more weeks, wanting to be certain, wanting to keep the knowledge precious and private between them for a little while. But as September turned to October and Katherine's condition became more apparent, they began to share the news. Jim and Carlos congratulated them heartily, their obvious pleasure making Katherine laugh. The women at church gathered around her after the service, offering advice and well wishes. Even the ones who had been coolest to her initially seemed to warm, the prospect of a baby breaking down social barriers. As winter approached and Katherine's belly began to round, Ryder found himself consumed with preparations. He reinforced the house against cold winds, laid in extra firewood and supplies, made arrangements with the doctor in town to come when the time arrived. He hovered over Katherine, worrying about her lifting anything heavy, working too hard, not eating enough. "Ryder, I am pregnant, not made of glass," Katherine would laugh, gently pushing him away so she could continue her work. "Women have been having babies since Eve. I will be fine." But Ryder could not help his protectiveness. The thought of anything happening to Katherine or the baby terrified him in a way that gunfights and stampedes never had. He had found happiness after years of loneliness, had built a life worth living. The fear of losing it was almost paralyzing at times. Katherine, sensing his anxiety, would draw him close and make him place his hand on her growing belly, feeling the baby move within. "Feel that," she would say. "That is our child, strong and healthy, growing as they should. We will be fine, all of us. You must have faith." And Ryder would look at her, at this woman who had lost everything and still maintained her faith, who faced the future with courage despite having every reason to fear it, and he would feel his anxiety ease. If Katherine could be brave, so could he. Christmas approached, and the ranch took on a festive air. Katherine insisted on decorating, cutting evergreen branches and making paper ornaments, baking special treats despite her fatigue. On Christmas Eve, they attended midnight services in town, the church glowing with candlelight, voices raised in ancient hymns. Katherine held her worn Bible and sang with her whole heart, radiant with joy and impending motherhood. Ryder had arranged a special gift for her, working on it secretly for weeks. It was a wooden cradle, beautifully crafted with rockers that moved smoothly and rails carved with a delicate pattern. He had spent hours on it, wanting it to be perfect for their child. When Katherine saw it on Christmas morning, she burst into tears. "It is beautiful," she sobbed, running her hands over the smooth wood. "Oh, Ryder, you made this." "I wanted our baby to have something special," he said, pleased by her reaction despite the tears. "Something made with love." Katherine threw her arms around him. "Our child is so lucky to have you as a father. I am so lucky to have you as my husband. I love you so much it sometimes frightens me." "I love you just as much," Ryder replied, kissing her soundly. Winter settled in fully, bringing cold winds and occasional snow. The ranch work continued, but at a slower pace. Ryder spent more time indoors, often finding Katherine knitting tiny garments by the fire, her expression distant and dreamy as she thought about the baby coming. "What do you hope for?" Ryder asked one night as they lay in bed, his hand resting on her belly. "A son or daughter, I do not care as long as the baby is healthy," Katherine said, "though I think my father would have loved a grandson to carry on his name." "We could name a son after him," Ryder suggested. "If you would like that." Katherine turned to him, her eyes bright with unshed tears. "Would you truly do that? Name our son after my father, of course. He was clearly a good man and you loved him. It would honor his memory." "His name was Kenneth," Katherine said softly. "Kenneth Novak." "Then if we have a son, we will call him Kenneth Ingram," Ryder promised. As it turned out, they had a son. He arrived on a snowy February morning after a long night of labor. Ryder paced the main room while the doctor and a midwife from town attended Katherine. Her cries of pain tore at him, made him want to burst through the door and somehow take her suffering upon himself. But all he could do was wait and pray. Finally, as dawn broke gray and cold, a new cry joined Katherine's. The thin, angry wail of a newborn fighting for breath and finding it. Ryder stood frozen, hardly daring to believe. The door opened and the midwife emerged, smiling. "You have a son, Mr. Ingram, a fine, healthy boy. Your wife did well. She is asking for you." Ryder rushed into the bedroom, his heart pounding. Katherine lay propped on pillows, her hair damp with sweat, her face pale with exhaustion. But her smile was radiant as she looked down at the small bundle in her arms. "Ryder, come meet your son," she said softly. He approached slowly, almost reverently, and looked down at the tiny red face, the dark hair, the miniature hands waving in the air. Something shifted in Ryder's chest, a love so intense and immediate it took his breath away. "He is perfect," Ryder whispered, his voice breaking. "Would you like to hold him?" Katherine asked. Ryder sat carefully on the edge of the bed and took the baby with shaking hands. His son, this tiny person who depended on him for everything, who carried his name and his blood. The responsibility was staggering, but so was the joy. "Hello, Kenneth," Ryder said quietly. "Welcome to the world, little man. You are so loved already, more than you could possibly know." The baby's eyes opened briefly, unfocused but seemingly looking right at his father. Then he yawned hugely and settled into sleep, perfectly content in Ryder's arms. "He looks like you," Katherine said, smiling. "The shape of his face, his expressions, I can already tell." "He has your nose," Ryder countered, studying his son intently. They stayed that way for a long time, the three of them together in the quiet bedroom while snow fell softly outside. The doctor checked on Katherine, pronounced her recovering well, and left instructions for her care. The midwife tidied up and departed. Jim and Carlos came to the door to offer quiet congratulations before heading out to handle the day's work. The first weeks with a newborn were exhausting but wonderful. Kenneth was a good baby, healthy and strong, nursing well and sleeping in reasonable stretches. Katherine recovered quickly, her natural resilience serving her well. Ryder took over most of the household chores, insisting Katherine focus on resting and caring for the baby. He would often find her in the rocking chair by the window, nursing Kenneth, her worn Bible open on her lap. She would read aloud to the baby, passages of hope and promise, her voice soft and melodic. Ryder would watch them and feel such overwhelming love he did not know how his heart contained it all. As winter gave way to spring, Kenneth grew and changed daily. His eyes turned from blue to gray like his mother's. His hair grew in dark and thick. He learned to smile, to coo, to grasp objects with his tiny fists. Every milestone was a celebration, every new development a wonder. One Sunday in April, they had Kenneth baptized at the church in Tascosa. Katherine dressed him in a special gown she had sewn from the blue fabric Ryder had bought her months ago. The sight of their son in that gown, made with such love and care, moved Ryder deeply. Reverend Michaels held Kenneth with practiced ease, speaking words of blessing over him. When he sprinkled the holy water on the baby's forehead, Kenneth let out an indignant cry that made the congregation laugh. Katherine's eyes met Ryder's across the church, both of them grinning at their son's protest. Afterwards, several couples approached them, other young families who had known the isolation of frontier life and understood the importance of community. Friendships were formed that day, connections that would support them through the years ahead. Life on the ranch settled into a new rhythm that accommodated their growing family. Katherine managed the house and tended Kenneth with easy competence, though she was often exhausted by evening. Ryder balanced ranch work with helping at home, changing diapers and walking a fussy baby so Katherine could rest. Jim and Carlos became honorary uncles, happy to entertain Kenneth when his parents needed a moment to themselves. On summer evenings, they would sit on the porch as they had from the beginning, but now with Kenneth between them in his cradle or held in one of their arms. They would watch the sun set and the stars emerge, talking about their day, their dreams, their plans for the future. "I want more children," Katherine said one night, her hand resting on Kenneth's sleeping form. "I want a house full of noise and laughter, brothers and sisters for Kenneth to grow up with." "I want that too," Ryder agreed, "as many as we are blessed with." "And I want to build something lasting here," Katherine continued. "Not just a ranch, but a legacy, something we can pass down to our children and grandchildren, a place where family always has a home." "We will build that together," Ryder promised. "Everything we do from now on is for them, for the future we are creating." As Kenneth's first birthday approached, Katherine discovered she was pregnant again. This time there was no surprise, only joy and anticipation. They had learned what to expect, felt confident in their ability to manage a growing family. The pregnancy progressed smoothly through the fall and winter. Kenneth was walking now, getting into everything with the determined curiosity of a toddler. He was bright and affectionate, quick to laugh, secure in the love that surrounded him. In March, Katherine delivered a daughter. She came more quickly than Kenneth had, born on a warm afternoon with the windows open to let in fresh air and bird song. When Ryder saw his daughter for the first time, her tiny red face and wisps of light hair, he felt that soul-deep love all over again. "What should we name her?" he asked Katherine, who looked tired but triumphant. Katherine smiled. "I thought we might name her Ruth after your mother." "If that is acceptable to you." Ryder had to turn away for a moment, overcome with emotion. His mother had been gone for 16 years, but he still missed her, still wished she could have known his wife and children. To have his daughter carry her name felt like a gift beyond measure. "That is more than acceptable," he managed finally. "It is perfect, thank you, Katherine." Ruth Ingram proved to be as different from her brother as possible. Where Kenneth had been calm and easy, Ruth was demanding and particular. She cried louder, ate less, slept poorly. Katherine walked the floor with her for hours, trying everything to soothe the fussy infant. "She knows what she wants," Katherine would say with exhausted amusement. "She is going to be strong-willed, this one." "Like her mother," Ryder would reply, earning himself a tired but genuine laugh. Despite the challenges, or perhaps because of them, they adored their daughter. Kenneth was fascinated by his baby sister, wanting to touch her constantly, to bring her toys, to help with her care. Ryder would find him sitting by her cradle, talking to her in his toddler babble, trying to make her smile. The years began to pass with increasing speed. Kenneth started helping with simple chores, shadowing his father around the ranch, asking endless questions. Ruth grew into her temperament, fierce and fearless, climbing everything, afraid of nothing. 2 more children followed, another son they named James, and then a second daughter they called Grace. The house expanded to accommodate the growing family. Ryder added 2 more bedrooms, a larger kitchen, a proper dining room. The ranch prospered, the herd growing, the land producing. They hired more hands, built a bunkhouse for them, expanded the barn and corrals. Katherine transformed from a grieving young woman with nothing but faith into a confident rancher's wife, the heart of a bustling household. She managed the domestic side of the ranch with efficiency and grace, teaching the children, cooking for a crowd, maintaining a home that was always welcoming. Her worn Bible still held pride of place on her bedside table. Read nightly, its pages now even more fragile with use. But the love between Ryder and Katherine never faded or became routine. If anything, it deepened with each passing year, strengthened by shared trials and triumphs. They made time for each other despite the demands of children and ranch, stealing moments alone, keeping their romance alive. On their 10th anniversary, Ryder took Katherine on a trip to Santa Fe, leaving the children in the capable hands of Jim and his wife Sarah, whom he had married 3 years prior. It was the first time they had been truly alone together since before Kenneth was born. They stayed in a real hotel, ate in restaurants, wandered the plaza hand in hand. They talked late into the night, remembering their beginning, marveling at how far they had come. They made love with the leisure and intensity that was impossible with 4 children in the house, reconnecting as lovers as well as partners. "I would choose you again," Katherine told him one night as they lay tangled together in the hotel bed. "If I had it all to do over, knowing everything that would happen, all the hard times and trials, I would still choose you. Every time." "And I you," Ryder replied. "You are the best thing that ever happened to me. You took my empty house and filled it with love and life. You gave me children, purpose, joy. I love you more now than I did on our wedding day, and I will love you more still with each passing year." They returned home to a chaotic greeting from 4 excited children and slipped back into the rhythm of family life. But both carried the glow of that week away, the reminder of what they meant to each other beneath all the practical demands of daily life. More years passed. Kenneth grew tall and serious, clearly destined to take over the ranch someday. Ruth became a skilled rider, able to outwork many of the hands. James showed artistic talent, always drawing and creating. Grace was the peacemaker, sensitive to others' feelings, quick to comfort and encourage. Ryder and Katherine watched their children grow with pride and occasional pangs of bittersweetness. The years were going so fast, the babies becoming children, the children becoming young adults. But they took comfort in knowing they had built something strong, had given their children a foundation of love and faith and hard work. When Kenneth was 18, he asked to court the daughter of a neighboring rancher. Ryder and Katherine gave their blessing, seeing how carefully their son treated the young woman, how seriously he took the responsibility of another person's heart. The following year, they attended Kenneth's wedding, watching their firstborn make his own vows, begin his own life. "We are getting old," Katherine said to Ryder as they danced at the wedding reception. "Speak for yourself," Ryder replied, pulling her closer. "I am in my prime," Katherine laughed, that same bright laugh that had enchanted him years ago. "We are grandparents now, Ryder. That is old." "Then we are young grandparents," Ryder insisted. "And I am not done with you yet, woman. We still have years ahead of us." And they did. Years of watching their children marry and start families of their own. Years of grandchildren filling the ranch house with noise and laughter. Years of continued work and growth, of challenges met and overcome together. On their 25th anniversary, their children threw them a party. The ranch house overflowed with people. 3 generations gathered to celebrate. There was food and music and dancing. Speeches were made, toasts raised. When it was Ryder's turn to speak, he stood with Katherine beside him and looked out at the crowd of family and friends. 25 years ago, I stood on a train platform in Tascosa, hoping someone would choose me. I had no idea that the young woman with the worn Bible would become my wife, my partner, my greatest love. Katherine, you took a leap of faith when you chose me. You trusted a stranger with your future. I have tried every day since to be worthy of that trust. You are the foundation of everything good in my life. You gave me children, grandchildren, a home filled with love. You showed me what faith really means, what love really means. I am the luckiest man alive, and I will love you until my last breath." Katherine's eyes were bright with tears as she stood to respond. "When I chose Ryder that day, I was broken and grieving, holding on to my faith by the thinnest thread. I told him that faith was all I had left, and it was true. But Ryder became the answer to prayers I had not even known to pray. He gave me safety, respect, partnership. And then, beyond all my hopes, he gave me love. True, deep, abiding love. He helped me heal from my grief, helped me build a new life from the ruins of the old one. Together we created this beautiful family, this legacy of faith and love that will continue long after we are gone. I chose him once, 25 years ago. I have chosen him every day since, and I will continue to choose him for all the days we have left." There was not a dry eye in the house as they kissed, this couple who had started as strangers and become soulmates, who had built a life together against all odds, whose love had become the stuff of family legend. The years continued to roll by, bringing both joy and sorrow. Jim passed away after a bout of pneumonia, and Ryder mourned the loss of his friend and longtime partner. Katherine's health began to falter as she reached her 60s, arthritis making her hands stiff, her energy not what it once was. But her spirit remained strong, her faith unshaken. Ryder, too, felt the weight of years. His joints ached in cold weather, his hair had gone completely gray. But when he looked at Katherine, he still saw the young woman who had chosen him that hot July day, who had transformed his life with her presence. They spent their later years mostly on the porch, watching grandchildren and great-grandchildren play in the yard, overseeing the ranch that Kenneth now ran with his wife and children. Ryder still helped where he could, but he had mostly passed the torch to the next generation. Katherine still read her Bible daily, that worn book that had survived so much, that had been her comfort and anchor through everything. Its cover was now held together with careful stitching, its pages fragile as breath, but she treasured it as she always had. One evening, as the sun set in a blaze of orange and gold, Katherine turned to Ryder and took his hand. "Do you remember what I told you the day we met?" "You told me many things," Ryder replied, his thumb stroking over her knuckles. "I told you that faith was all I had left," Katherine said. "I thought I had lost everything else, but I was wrong. Faith was not all I had. It was the beginning. It brought me to you, brought me to this life, to our children and grandchildren, to 52 years of love and partnership. Faith was the seed, but love was the harvest." "Faith brought you to the platform that day," Ryder agreed. "But love made you stay. Our love built day by day, choice by choice. That has been the greatest adventure of my life, Katherine. Loving you, being loved by you, building this life together." "No regrets?" Katherine asked softly. "Not a single one," Ryder replied firmly. "You?" "None whatsoever," Katherine said. "I have been blessed beyond measure. I lost my first family, but God gave me a second one even more beautiful than I could have imagined. He gave me you." They sat in comfortable silence as the stars began to emerge, the same stars they had watched together for over 5 decades. The sounds of family drifted from the house behind them, the laughter of great-grandchildren, the low murmur of adult conversation. The ranch that Ryder had built alone now housed 4 generations, a testament to the legacy he and Katherine had created together. "I love you," Katherine said, as she had said countless times over the years, the words never losing their meaning or power. "I love you," Ryder replied, meaning it as deeply as the first time he had said it. And as the night settled around them, they remained there together, hand in hand, hearts intertwined, 2 souls who had found each other against impossible odds and built a love that would echo through generations. The worn Bible sat on Katherine's lap, its leather soft with age and use, a symbol of the faith that had sustained them both, that had brought them together, that had made everything possible. Their story was not one of dramatic rescues or grand gestures, but of quiet commitment and daily choice. It was a love forged in honesty and strengthened by faith, built from the foundation of mutual respect and deepened by shared experience. From a desperate beginning on a train platform in the Wild West, they had created something beautiful and lasting, a legacy of love that would continue long after they were gone. As they finally rose to go inside, Ryder helped Katherine to her feet, steadying her with the same gentle care he had shown from the very beginning. They walked together into the house filled with the family they had built, the home they had made, the life they had chosen. Behind them, the Texas stars blazed in the endless sky, bearing witness to a love story for the ages. The seasons turned and they continued on together, grateful for each day, each moment, each breath. They had been given the gift of time, the blessing of family, the grace of enduring love. And through it all, from that first meeting until their final days, they chose each other, again and again, proving that the greatest love stories are not about fate or destiny, but about 2 people who decide, every single day, to stay and to love and to build something beautiful together. Their children and grandchildren would tell the story for years to come, of how Cowboy Ryder Ingram chose the bride with the worn Bible, the young woman who said faith was all she had left. They would speak of how that faith had blossomed into love, how that love had created a family, how that family had become a legacy. It was a reminder that even in the darkest moments when all seems lost, faith can lead us to exactly where we need to be, to exactly who we need to find. And so their story ended not with an ending at all, but with continuation, with the ongoing life of the family they had created, the values they had instilled, the love they had modeled. Ryder and Katherine Ingram lived long lives, blessed with children, grandchildren, and great-grandchildren, surrounded by love until the very end. They died within months of each other in their 80s, having never spent more than a night apart in all their years of marriage. They were buried side by side on a hill overlooking the ranch, where the grass grew green and the wind whispered through the mesquite. Catherine's worn Bible was placed in her hands, that faithful companion that had seen her through so much. And on their shared headstone, the family had inscribed words that captured the essence of their love story. Faith brought them together. Love kept them strong. Family carries them forward. The ranch continued under Kenneth's stewardship, and would eventually pass to his children and their children after that. The house Ryder built still stood, expanded and updated but fundamentally the same, still sheltering generations of Ingrams, still filled with love and laughter and the presence of family. And on the mantel, in a place of honor, sat a photograph of Ryder and Katherine on their 25th anniversary, young still in that moment captured in time, looking at each other with such love that it radiated from the old photograph, inspiring every generation that followed to seek that kind of love, that depth of commitment, that abiding faith in each other and in God. Their story became family legend, told and retold, a reminder that the best things in life often come from the hardest circumstances, that love can bloom in the most unexpected places, that faith and courage and choosing to trust can lead to miracles. The worn Bible eventually found its way to a place of honor in a glass case, preserved for future generations, a tangible link to the woman who had clutched it on a train platform and declared it was all she had left, never knowing it would lead her to everything she had ever needed. And so the legacy lived on, generation after generation, all stemming from one cowboy who chose a bride not for what she had but for who she was, and one young woman who chose to have faith not just in God but in a stranger who offered her hope. Their love had transformed not just their own lives but the lives of everyone who came after them, proving that the most powerful force in the world is not wealth or power or status, but love freely given and gratefully received, faith maintained through trials, and the choice to build something beautiful together, day by day, for all the days of their lives.